Humans have been unfairly treated and marginalized by goldfish. We have been ridiculed, demeaned, diminished, defamed, discounted, dismissed as having a shorter attention span than a goldfish. This heresy started long ago, maybe in the early 2000s, but became an accepted truth in 2015 when a Microsoft research team reported that the average human attention span had shrunk to 8 seconds, and a goldfish was holding at 9 seconds. Now, within hours, this, quote, news hit the headlines worldwide and continues to permeate the internet. Over the years, this report was shown to be false. It's not based on any data. Goldfish have memories that can last as long as 5 months. And humans can focus on a task, as you all know, for long periods. But it was too late. We all wanted to believe that our attention span was continuously shortening to the point of, what was I saying? Oh yeah. I remember. We so wanted to believe that everyone else's attention span was shortening that we accepted this myth as true. We started blaming things and people for this short attention span. We blamed screen time, the internet, pop-up commercials, video games, overscheduling our children's activities, decline in church attendance, my favorite, and the social degradation of families caused by not eating together every night at 6 p.m. What do you think? Is your attention span less than 9 seconds? I found this great graphic this week researching for this sermon, and it's this poster, and it shows a woman saying, if I had $1 for every time I was distracted, boy, I'd really like an ice cream right now. But is your attention span really so short? I mean, can't you sit and watch a movie? Hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Avatar's what, 4? Can you sit here in community and be with us for an hour and 15 minutes? And think about it. Can you achieve anything in 8 seconds? I believe, as Sean Buck does, and he said this, the problem is not our short attention span. The problem is we have an infinite number of options to choose from. This problem of too many choices actually has a name, The Paradox of Choice, a book by Barry Schwartz, 2004. The paradox of choice is basically a concept that we are increasingly unhappy with an increasing number of options. Counterintuitive, but why? Seems like with more options, you should be happier. It's because we are tortured by wondering if we are making the optimum decision when we decide to procure something or do something. This is not buyer's remorse, but a pervasive search for the better option, even after we've procured something or done something. We are haunted by continuing to search for something even after we found it. So here's my story from 1976. The setting is Napa Valley, when it was less busy. I'm sitting in a deli with my wife, and we're having lunch. Now, at that time, we still lived in Texas, where I grew up, where I was raised. And my wife was showing me a very foreign land where everything was different and the people dressed really, really weird, Northern California. I wanted a beer with lunch, so I went to the self-serve case. Now, growing up in Texas, there were basically 4 beers: Lone Star, Shiner, Jack's, and Pearl. 4 beers. Most establishments only served one, maybe two. In front of a refrigerated case in Napa, California, I had an existential crisis. I was looking through the glass at thousands of beers. Okay, maybe there was only 30. But to me, it was an infinite number of choices. Too many options. I just randomly chose one. Never even heard of it before. It was good, but was it the best? What about all those other beers? Could one of them have been better? This is the paradox of choice. Now, I think the paradox of choice and our busyness are linked. And I believe this is why we're on autopilot so much of our days. Because we're overwhelmed with choices. So to get through the day, instead of being present, we're numb over and go through the motions of just getting through. This is why it's so difficult to be mindful when we're so busy. We're too busy being on autopilot to get anything done. And we can feel guilty because we realize that so much of our life is just zooming by. And we can be even more guilt when we get little flashes of insight that remind us that we're not paying attention. You know those moments when someone says something like, wow, look at those clouds. And for the first time in forever, you look up and you see, yeah, those are amazing clouds. And you ask yourself, how did I miss this? Now, see, it's really tempting to try and limit the choices. You can read books on minimalism. You can set a limit on your screen time or your kids. You can make a New Year's resolution to be more mindful. But for me, none of those aspirations worked, nor did they help. This world is an intense place, and choices of how to spend my time have gone to infinity and beyond. It's a delusion for most of us to think that we can limit our interface with the world of screens, news, calls, and obligations. The choices on how we spend our time are not going to shrink. They're increasing every day. Every day there's more interesting blogs, more inspirational books, more worthy causes of people in need, many more new restaurants, more and more beer. Is there any other option than retreating from life and shutting yourself off from the world? Now, full disclosure, I've gone on unplugged retreats, and they were wonderful. A week of clarity, meditation, no phone calls, no email. It was rejuvenating. But the release and relief of being unplugged only lasted a few days. Because I came back to the same world, to the same routine, to the same obligations. But what if instead of running faster and faster, and what if instead of running away, what if there was a way to better navigate this world we're living in of overwhelming choices and living the life that I want to live? Well, here is how I try and exist without being overwhelmed. I take an occasional purposeful pause. I find that an occasional pause with no expectations works well for me. I don't schedule these pauses. I don't set a minimum of time. I just pause for a few seconds. And instead of feeling guilty about not meditating 20 minutes twice a day, I pause every few seconds, sometimes just before I pour my morning tea. I stop and I think about what am I doing? In yoga, in my practice, the teacher always says, set your intentions. That's at the beginning of my classes. Set your intentions. What do you intend? But a purposeful pause can be more dynamic than just setting intentions. A purposeful pause can be a short reminder to myself and to ask, is what I'm about to do a good use of my time and energy? A pause is extremely useful when I get upset. With practice, I'm getting better at pausing before I react, but this ain't easy. I'm always trying. But with practice, you can get a little better. Now, a pause is an ancient religious concept. The reason we have weekends in our culture is because Sunday started out as a day of rest, a very Christian tradition. The fourth commandment of the Ten Commandments says it this way: remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. The Jewish Sabbath, Shabbat, is an ancient tradition of pausing, to worship together, to ponder life's meaning, to get out of the routine, to pause. On the Sabbath, you went to church or synagogue to be reminded of life's purpose beyond just making a living. But the laws and the social pressures for keeping the Sabbath holy have fallen away. Sundays now advice. T, take a breath. Feel the full cycle of breathing in your body. O, observe. First bodily sensations, then thoughts and emotions, and be curious. And P, closing out, what feels like a wise next step now? Stop. I really enjoy this. I'm trying to do it myself. Just stop. It's not that you have a short attention span. It's that you're living with more choices than humans are capable of discerning. It's not that you're too busy. It's that you fail to stop and pause and think about how you're spending your time. It's not about getting more done. It's about doing things that are more meaningful. Stop. Pause occasionally on purpose. Let me know if this works for you. I just read an article. New scientific evidence says that threats, punishments don't work. A reward works in changing people's behavior. So the reward I'm offering you is perhaps a little more peace of mind. Amen. Peace be with you all.